The Old Lady of North Street this morning, front page, Golding woos with housing promises. Public sector workers, young professionals, low-income earners targeted. The Gleaner also has on its front page this morning, PNP pledges, Disability Fund, more resources for special needs children. Beechwood Avenue, The Observer, over a photograph of a smiling Golding among enthusiastic PNP supporters yesterday. Change champion. That was the front page. That's how he characterized his presentation in the printed version. Change champion. Golding says opposition ready to govern with fresh ideas. And inside the Observer, there is more from Golding. $1 billion allocation to get customers on JPS grid, not enough, says Golding. Also on the inside of the paper, the Observer, PNP promises raft of home ownership measures. Opposition takes Portmore challenge to court. I make a point of that because, there's more. Education at center of PNP's growth strategy, says Golding. We in broadcast media, 3.5 hours in full yesterday from the opposition leader. I make a point, this is being said because Mr. Golding has accused all of us in media of selling out to the governing Jamaica Labour Party. And he said so before an overseas audience 2 weeks ago in Connecticut. I don't think the kind of coverage he has received from the media, would in any way support what he falsely accused us of.
Political commentator Dr. Nadine Spence says some of the claims made by the opposition leader, as he criticized the work done by the Constitutional Reform Committee, are untrue. Dr. Spence, who is a member of the committee, was reacting to Mark Golding's presentation in the 2025-2026 budget debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Mahir Stewart has that story.
Concerns about the constitutional reform process were some of the pointed remarks made by opposition leader Mark Golding as he delivered his contribution to the budget debate in Parliament on Tuesday. Among the issues detailed are the use of a referendum to determine Jamaica's final court, the use of a phased approach to the reform process, and the selection process of the president. But according to a member of the Constitutional Reform Committee, Dr. Nadine Spence, multiple comments made about the process by Mr. Golding were simply false. Speaking with Cliff Hughes, Ricardo Brooks, and Siobhan Campbell on Nationwide at 5 on Tuesday evening, Dr. Spence first sought to refute the opposition leader's claims that the phased approach to reform would derail the process.
I wanted to push back on some of what he said because some of what he said is not true.
Okay.
Firstly, your radio station interviewed the people from Idea International who came to Jamaica and having looked at our process said they thought the phased approach was perhaps one of the best they have seen in constitutional reform efforts globally.
Yes.
And one of the things they pointed out is that a large percentage of constitutional reform efforts globally are unsuccessful. They're unsuccessful because of different things. Part of them is this thing called public consultation. And one of the things they say is whether or not you do the consultation at the top end of the reform effort or at the bottom end, i.e. you present a document to the people. It is contentious. So constitutional reform efforts are contentious.
Mr. Golding also voiced concern about how the bill concerning the constitutional reform would affect the Senate. Dr. Spence says this criticism is also flawed. She also points out that this concern of the opposition leader was already addressed by the committee.
He talked about this matter of the Senate losing its check on the legislative reform system. That was not true.
Yes, my recollection is that, yes,
this document highlights that even though there is a proposition that the Senate be expanded, the Senate will still maintain its role as a constitutional bodyguard, right?
The provision in the numbers in the Senate, 13-8, which gives the opposition a virtual veto, over any deeply entrenched changes. That provision, as proposed, would remain. So Mr. Golding misled us when he made.
Exactly, and Mr. Golding knows that that's not true because he wrote to us twice about that and we responded twice.
Lastly, Dr. Spence dashed Mr. Golding's claims about impeachment. She cited fellow committee member Dr. Lloyd Barnett's research to back her point.
This thing about the right to recall and impeachment provision. We didn't suggest them, and neither did Dr. Barnett. In fact, Dr. Barnett, who he quoted as a respected constitutional expert in Jamaica, was the person who did his soundings and came back to the committee and spoke about the matter of impeachment. And he pointed out that impeachment has not been in use since in any constitution outside of the U.S. in parliamentary system since somewhere about 16-something, because as laws have progressed and as governments have become more sophisticated and as legal frameworks have been expanded, it's almost as if there is no need for a constitutional mechanism for impeachment because the legislative process takes care of the need for